So with directives, we started with ngIf, correct? ngIf directive. What do you understand with ngIf?
If a condition is true, it will execute
So it's
certain
like
thing.
if else of JavaScript, correct? Just that the way of writing is different here. We write a star before ngIf. What is the reason for adding that star?
Star is like it can change.
So that star denotes that it may or may not change it. Okay, so that is the syntax. Star ngIf. We have written it somewhere, right? Star ngIf. Okay. Now this if condition is where? This is my condition. Server created. What is server created?
True.
It's something here, true or false. So if else, we know that returns works on true and false only, right? Boolean value. If it's true, it will work. If it's false, it will not work. Correct? So that is what I'm saying. If it's true, this is what will be printed. If it's false, then I'm saying else no server. Okay, what is this no server? I am declaring a portion. Okay, before that, forget about this else as of now. I'll remove it. Okay, it's just this. Unique for even this now. If this particular object is true, this is what will get printed. Here, and I'm writing this inside p tag because I want to print this. Correct? Now, what happens in the server basically? What happens in my web page? When I inspect it, I see that if it's false, there is no such p tag only. There's no such p tag in my file. Only when it's true, it occupies a space. Otherwise, there is no reference of it. So it's not storing a particular area or location in my file. Only if it's present, it comes. Otherwise, there's no mention of this p tag in my file. We saw that, correct? Now, using this template, we are basically occupying a space in my template. Whether it be present or not, this particular tag will be present in my file, even if this is not there. This will be present or not present based on this condition, but this will always be present. So if it's present, let it occupy this particular space. If it's not present, it occupies this particular space. That is how you write else.
It's like loading. Like before page is loaded, the loading.
Yeah, before the page is loaded, like this p tag or this button or this label has some space in your file, right? Correct? Similarly, this ng template will also have a space. It might not get printed, but it occupies a space in your file. It will only get printed if this condition is false. So it's like the normal if else of your JavaScript. Just that the syntax is a bit different. That's it.
Can we write that no server was created in that else part directly?
Yes.
We simply will write there.
Yes, but then again, even that will not occupy a particular space. Okay, so ng template, the reason why I displayed this was just to show that if you want to occupy some space for this operation, you can do it using ng template. And not just for else, you can have this for if also, this ng template.
There we can call that.
Yeah, right now this p is not permanently present. It's dynamic. If you write ng template, you can permanently save that area for this effect.
In that case, then there we wrote like server was created, server name is server name. So for ng if we have to write, then there we will give that template name.
No server or whatever your template name is.
Server.
This is ngIf. Just like your normal if else, the logic will be the same. Here, you just have to remember that whatever you write here should return a Boolean value. Okay, if it doesn't return a Boolean value, your if else will not be operable, right? It will only work on Boolean value. You just have to take care of that. Rest everything is the normal if else. Okay. So far clear? No confusion? The next was ng style. Correct? So this type of directive that we saw is known as structural directive. This if ng if is a structural directive. There's another type of directive called attributes. So we understand that CSS works on attributes, right? Correct. So that is why the next type is ng style. This was structural. Why is it called structural? Because this decides the structure of my program. If you remember in JavaScript also, if is also known as control structures. Correct? Because that defines the structure of your program. That is why this ng if is also known as structural directive.
You can say like for modifying the HTML we are using ng, and for CSS we are using
ng style. Correct. Just understand this from the if-else perspective only. If you have to perform some operation based on if-else, you use ng if. Okay. Now coming to ng style. So ng style works on property binding. Because you have to specify what are you basically going to change. Okay, so ng style works on property binding. If some property changes, if some change happens, then this will also execute, or this style will get reflected there.
Based on our TS file, we want to change this type.
Yes. What is property binding?
Like we change this tag, we have suppose there's a property defined. We want to modify that based on some.
Exactly. So when you have a property, it will have its own CSS. Let's say when you load the page, it will have its own CSS. If that property undergoes a change, the CSS also undergoes a change using this ng style. Okay. So this is what will happen. Okay. The background color calls this function get color, which I think we have mentioned here. Right. And in this get color, I'm saying when will the how will the properties change. So if it is online, then let it be green, otherwise mark it red. So based on a property, I'm deciding the CSS of a particular element. This is why ng style is.
What is the purpose of writing triple equal to their name?
Yeah, this is because this triple equal to is a notation used to compare this dot server status, is it returning online or not. This is just for comparison. Okay, so basically with ng if, we perform certain operation on the property itself using if else. With ng style, again we are performing some operation on the property but on the CSS part, on the styling part. Okay, the directives are used to change the DOM. So you will be performing, whether it be ng if, ng style, ng class, or ng for. We'll see all these later on. So be it anything, you will be performing operations on your DOM. Today we'll also discuss the project. So when you start working on that, things will get more clear. Okay. After we complete it, there are few more topics in directives after. So yeah, so now is it clear what ng style does? Based on a particular condition, you can decide the style. It need not necessarily be just color. It could be any style.
And then that condition you wrote, like based on server status math.random. So always we have to define the constructor.
No. See, okay, always you have to define in the constructor, you're saying.
Yeah.
So what are constructors used for? While creating the object, you're assigning some property to it, right? It depends on the business logic. I want this property to be assigned when the object is getting created, because it will be either my object will be online or offline. That has to be decided in the beginning itself. That is why it's in the constructor. As soon as the object gets created, this property should get attached. If I'm okay with attaching it later on, I need not declare it inside.
At the time of object creation, we want to declare, that's why we have declared.
Inside constructor. Understood why ng style is inside those brackets? Those brackets denote property binding, right? Because ng style works on property binding. It's associated with property binding.
Before you said one property, ng model kind of. So what's the difference between ng model and ng model was used for two-way binding? We used it for two-way binding. So
what is the difference between style and model?
Yeah.
So ng model was for whenever you have two-way data binding. That means when you have to fetch data as well as to send data. Then we use ng model. That is how we perform two-way binding operations. Style is related to CSS.
All this come under that ng model.
No.
ng object like kind of.
No, ng is just a notation. It doesn't come under that. It's not a class. It's nothing. Okay? Also, you have to understand this ng style is not fetching data. ng style is not fetching data for me. It's modifying data. Whereas ng model which fetch data also. Okay. Next is ng class. So ng class is used to, it helps us to dynamically add or remove CSS classes. So we'll see how. Okay, so it is used to add or remove CSS classes dynamically. Again, whenever it's dynamic, that means it's on a condition. Okay. So first, let's go to our component.ts file. Here, I'm going to add styles in my component decorator. So it's styles, not style URL. I'm using styles. And it could be multiple lines. So I'll use this symbol. Now here I will define a class. Let's say dot, and I can give a class name. Okay, it could be anything. So now let's say online, because I want to assign this CSS on the online and offline property. Okay. Let's say the color of this is any color. So this is clear, right? This is how we write CSS for a class, correct? I have not defined this class yet, but I'm saying that for this particular class, this is the CSS. Okay. Now let's go back to our HTML, because that is where we define the class, correct?
Yeah.
So I'll go to my HTML and the same property, ng style, and use my class now. Okay. Let the background color be whatever it is. Here, right after this background color, I will write my property ng class. Now here also it should be inside the bracket. Here also I'm writing it inside the bracket because even this is associated with the property. Even this will be associated with the property binding. Okay. Here I have to define the class. That online class that I had mentioned over there, that has to come here. Just write online. Okay. Now basically whatever I write here is a JavaScript object. It takes a JavaScript object, okay, which is a key value pair. The key would be the name of the class that you want to define. The name of the CSS class that you want to define. and the value is the condition that determines whether the CSS should be attached or not. What CSS? This CSS. So that condition will come here. So key value pair. For this class, this is the condition. So let's say my condition is server, what is the status I'm working on, right? Server status, yeah. Server status equals online. So if it is online, let the color be white. Otherwise, don't apply.
Okay, means for class online, if this condition is true, then only
Exactly. I think I went this. This has to be inside inverted commas, right? It should all be inside this.
online.
Yes, okay. So understood what I'm doing here? I'm defining a CSS class for this property, and I'm saying that if the server status is online, then apply this CSS, otherwise don't. Now don't confuse this with ng style. Ng style is not based on if it is there, then apply CSS. CSS will be applied. You can write if else for what CSS will be applied, but CSS will be applied. ng class on the other hand decides whether the CSS will be applied or not.
It's like class is for we are applying it on the entire class. Style is like we want to modify certain style.
Correct, but then this class is also for this style only, for this property itself.
Did you make any changes that .ps file?
Yeah, I added this styles. What happened?
Asking what math or random like that. Color is condition every time green red.
That's because of math.1. If it's online, I think it's coming green. If it's offline, it's coming. That's because of NG style.
Like we are generating numbers there and then we are checking for the answer.
Here, the condition. If it's greater than 0.5, then it is online. And NG style performs that if it's online, let it be green. If it's offline, let it be red.
Where do we use this together? NG class and NG style? We use together.
Yeah, so see, this NG style is getting executed no matter what. Either to be online or offline, it is getting executed. Now I want to change properties of that NG style. Okay, like right now it is coming green and white, but the text I think is black. Right? So I want the text to change to white now in that particular style. There I'll use NG class.
This style can go to entire page. And if we want to modify a certain part,
Correct.
then we use
NG. The same concept of CSS style and class. Styling is for everything. Class is for a specific part. So it's not different. It's just the same thing that we have studied so far. Just that the way we write, it is different. Then we give fancy names to it. That's it. Otherwise, the concept is same. Okay. So now, and when you do ng serve, inspect element, and how many blocks do you have? One. So do one thing. Where have you loaded this? I think here, right? App server. Write another app server here so that you get two blocks. Just 1 minute. Yeah.
We wrote it 2 times.
But everything is coming because there are multiple things, right?
Everything is coming. Point is, for example, I have two status switches which are getting loaded. एक लोड पे मैथड रैंडम की वैल्यू दोनों के लिए अलग-अलग क्यों?
अलग-अलग ही होंगी. Because it's randomly generated. Both the times your component is getting loaded. It might be same. It'll never be same, or it might be. It's random. If you're very lucky, it will give you the same.
दोनों पे सेम है.
Otherwise it might change as well.
दोनों सेम भी नहीं होगा. अगर वो
if it's green, doesn't mean it's the same number.
वो less than 0.5 वो तब भी दे रहा होगा.
Right. It could be same number also in some point of time. It's random. Okay. When you write it 2 times or 3 times, you're basically saying you're calling this app server those many times. So it's a separate call every time.
Every time it will go, it will again call HTML, it will again call that PS5.
Again the random function. Okay. So it will be different. Okay. So now the reason why I said this was because if it's offline, you will see that ng class is not working well. If it's online, the ng class works. It's not working, right? ng class is not working. Now this is something that we can see. Now let's verify this using code. So inspect elements, inspect and see that the class property, that ng class property will be present on the tag which is green. It will not be present on the tag which is red. If it's online, ng class is associated with it. Class is equal to online, not ng class. Basically, you will find class is equal to online added to the property.
For me, in both the cases,
it's green.
Class is equal to online.
If both the cases are green for you?
No, one is green, one is red.
Show me. Here, where is class is equal to online? It's not there, right? For green, it will be there. For red, it won't be there. That property of that class name will not be mentioned in the property.
ng reflect ng class. Red over ng reflect by the class.
That is different. I'm talking about class name. How do you define class in a property? When you write HTML, you have, let's say, division, some name. The class is equal to some name, right? That will be present if it's green color. Class is equal to, well, within quotes, online will be written. If it's red, it will not be present. So this is like a verification. That class will only be applied to that particular condition that I've provided in my HTML file. Here, inside ng class. If it's online, this class name will be there.
There is no class.
Sure. If it's green.
No, if it's green, class is there.
Yeah, if it's green, class is there.
Red class is there.
Okay. Clear? Concept of ng class. Okay. The next one is ng for. As the name suggests, for loops. Can you show me ng serve to ng serve? So there is this add server button, right? What happens when you click on it?
When I'm clicking on it, it passes a value. It changes the value. It is calling a function in TLS which is having a different value.
Yeah, but then what happens here? Click it.
A server is created. Which we are changing the server.
Yes, but basically that server is created is coming from somewhere else, right? It's actually not getting created.
Yes, ma'am.
Only 2 objects are present, which is hard coded by us. Otherwise, it's not getting created. My list is not expanding dynamically, which it should. If there is an add server button, it's meant for that, right? If I click on it, a server should be created. So now, instead of having it hard coded, we want it to dynamically change the list. We want it to actually create the server. Okay, so that we will perform using for loop, ng for. Okay, so what we'll do is in our component.ts, we'll add another property called, let's say, servers. Okay, and let's give multiple names to it. Server 1, server 2. Okay, so basically we are defining an array. Okay, multiple values. Now inside this on create, right after this statement, we add another statement called this.server.push, this.server, server here, this.servers.push, this.server name. So you know what a push statement does, push function does, add elements to the array, right? So basically I'm saying in this array, 2 are already defined, server 1, server 2 is already defined, add more. Whenever one of it is created, add more to this list, this array. On create server will be called whenever I click the button, right? So you create more servers and add it here in the array. The server name. What is server name? Whatever the user is typing. That is my server name.
Automatically will come from there.
Now, so far I've created this part. I've not created how it will display. Okay. Right now it will just add it to the array, but I've not displayed it yet. Okay, server name I have already defined test server, right? So let's use this one definition of server 1. Use test server. And let's say test server 2. Now how do I display this? So I'll go to my component.html. Okay. And where I'm mentioning the server name, where is that strip coming from?
The button is there, na? First button. After that, there was allowed to server creation status.
This one, yeah, correct. Then I used it somewhere else. No?
We commented out there.
Okay, okay. So you uncomment this. Okay, and right after this, you write, or no, let it be or whatever. You do one thing, go to your app component.html, where you're writing app server, right? There you mention star ng for. Okay, equal to this is the syntax. Let is used to define a temporary variable. Let I is my temporary variable. I of servers. That is the array. So I will take each element from the array one by one. Okay, that's it. Now go and check. Do ng serve and click on the button. What happens?
Server was created. Server name is test server. Server name is test server. This statement is followed.
Sure.
Once I click.
That's okay. Show me your file. This is fine. The HTML file. No, your server name is not getting displayed.
Yes, server is the server name.
No, but that is coming from a different place. That is coming from what was getting displayed? Server was created. Server name is test server. Go back. Where is this coming from? You have anything below this? It's coming from ngIf.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want this. I want the server name. Initially we did right. We were displaying servers.
So we have to print both server name and server creation status there.
Yeah, yeah. Server name and server creations. No, not necessarily. So yeah, maybe both. That's fine.
I'm actually getting only the default value that you're doing test server. Do we need to use dot length function here?
I just wanted to display that. Just activating. I wanted to display it.
We have put two app servers there. If you're using NG for that, then the second one is automatically getting disappeared. The app server, we have wrote it twice there to differentiate before. So if I'm putting the app server NG for on the first one, then the second one is not working.
Yeah, in that case, you'll have to add it to both. Or for now, let it be one. That's okay. The purpose here is to understand NG4. Let's remove it from here, NG4. Okay. And we start it to our own component. After the button.
Program we wrote like this dot server dot push. We are taking the value from somewhere and then we are pushing it into that. But I haven't put any text field there.
Text field there. No, you are adding it to the button. Basically here we have this button, right? We have to take input. This has to be uncommented. Okay, and this server name, let's not write here. Let's write it here. Okay, or forget about this also. Let me remove the unnecessary occupying. And since I commented that, we comment this as well in the styles because this online class is no longer present, right? Let it understand. See, I am pushing server name, right? That server name I am getting from here. this working? Here inside P, you write it. I had written initially, right? Server with ID. Server ID. Yes.
So these two, for if they are so again,
Unexpected closing tag. What?
there is no JS.
But for ng template. Some unexpected closing tag for the name. Okay, here even I forgot to comment this. This has to be commented.
It's like after button, if we write ng for let I of servers, then also it's getting.
Yeah. It's working? Show me the code. Yeah, it's working, right? You add it. ID has been hard coded as 10, is it?
Yeah, our.
Okay, yeah, that is fine. Because every time it is getting printed.
But if you type 3 once, it's automatically changing.
This one? Yeah, that's because ng model is used, right? So it's two-way data binding.
Okay.
That is fine. Otherwise, you can see that list has been dynamically updated now. This was not the case previously. Okay. Using this for loop, you can do
Like
the same
after this,
operation
if we
multiple
run a loop to see what are there in the array, then you can see this server name also in that array. Only this way it is.
There's something with your print statement. Go to your ng for. I think you did not, you just wrote get server status. You forgot to write these brackets after that. Yeah. Okay, that is why it's returning you the entire function. It's a function called get server status. Now, there could be situations when you want to access the index of this array. So, excuse me. The servers is the array, right? Each element in that array has an index. Maybe you want to access element wise or index wise. How do you do that? So if you have to access it index wise, let's say, what you will do is semicolon and then let some different variable this time, okay, is equal to index. Now in this loop, variable will be index of each value of I.
Then ID we can print that var, so that that index counts as server ID.
You can. Instead of in the place of ID, but then you don't need this. You just print variable. No, but this then it will be a string, right? Yeah. Or what you can do is inside this itself, you can add ng style and nothing. ng has to be property binding.
Should it be double equal to L, like var equal to index?
No, no. A double equal to is not used for assigning values. That is fine. It's a single equal to only.
You are putting double equal to, the syntax is getting correct there.
No, it should be single equal to for assigning values. Double equal to is to check. Anyway, let's try it this way. This style is equal to, let's say, that the same thing that we wrote here. Background color, and instead of calling the function, I'll write this here itself. If your index is greater than, let's say, 2, okay, question mark, let the color be red or maybe yellow, okay, else blue. That's fine now. Again, if you want, you can have ng class also for text. Now try it for all those elements whose index is less than 2, it would be blue color, and for others, it will be yellow. It's actually opposite. Blue would be for less than 2 or 2.
Showing error after index.
So what is the error?
Unexpected token var at column 20.
Show me. Okay, show me the code. Should work fine.
This type of
Parts error.
ये जो इन्वर्टेड कॉमा इसको लास्ट में क्लोज करेंगे वहाँ क्लोज करेंगे
What is the error?
Incorrect bar share unexpected present direct falling into showing that is after var equal to index there is an error from and it gets like there is getting confused between the closing time. Like for B, we have started with greater than 20. And in between var, there seems to be a giving it getting confused.
Maybe that I is equal to index. That's fine.
Actually, what's happening like taking var as a keyword there. Var we use for defining a variable, like suppose variable data
Yeah,
type.
right. But you are not using variable, right? You're using
I was using var only. Just now I made I.
Uh-huh.
That's working.
Yeah. That's correct. That's a very foolish mistake. We're using a variable keyword instead of a variable name. Yeah, correct. We shouldn't be using a keyword. Now it's working.
But now everything is coming in blue.
Show me. Yeah, that's because you already changed your this thing to greater than 1. The reason being, it's only displaying the one which you are adding using the button, right? Correct? So those indexes are greater than 1. Okay, make it 5 or make it 20. I don't know how many elements you've already added to your array.
Still everything is coming in blue only.
Show me. Where is this line? Because you're writing blue. Wait. I is greater than 15. Any idea how many elements your list has?
3 I've added.
So basically, it says if it's greater than 8, it will be this right. Let's change this to less than 8 and see. Is there anywhere else that you've added blue property? The blue is coming from here itself. Where is this?
It's in division only. Division only one is there. Can you make it J here? Because it's
Oh,
getting the
it's
same
the
variable.
same. It shouldn't be the same.
Because it is not get variable. Variable name.
Let's change it to
I servers. I was. If you want to display the index number here, so how will you do that? Like servers, like in string interpolation only we used to do.
in that case you do it from your TS file. Here we are not accessing the elements.
But like string interpolation, we get that.
So here you have declared your array, right?
Mm-hmm.
You take index from here and display it. Okay, ng4 is not for fetching data.
Less than करता हूँ. Less than करो. लेकिन बिल्कुल जल्दी. नहीं, आगे. टोटल सही करेगा ये वैल्यू वगैरह.
Okay. So now we will see about this was all about directives. ng-if, ng-style, ng-class, and ng-form. Okay. Now let's talk about the course project a bit. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are creating a recipe book along with the shopping list. There are two major features. One is your recipe book. The other major feature is your shopping list. In your recipe book, you will have different recipes, a list of all the recipes. Each recipe will have certain information there set in the homepage where the list is printed. When you click on the list, when you click on a particular recipe, the recipe detail page will open. Okay, there you'll have each ingredients and every detail and everything mentioned. If you want, you can directly click on the ingredient and will go to your shopping list. Okay, it will come in your shopping list. Fine. So first, there will be two sections then. First is managing your recipe book, viewing more details. When I say managing, you can create recipe, you can view recipe. Okay, you can view the details of a recipe. You can write it like this. You will have two sections. Your recipe book and your shopping list. You will be managing your recipe book. This will be one aspect or one functionality. The other functionality is view your recipe in detail. Okay, and third functionality is managing the shopping list, where we push ingredients from recipe directly to the shopping list. So third is managing your shopping list. Fourth is pushing ingredients from recipe directly to shopping list. Now you can divide it into as many components as you want. Okay, I will talk about if I were to divide this, how many components I divide it. One will be the root component, which is your app component. Main component would be app component. Then let's say I'll have a header. That is another component. So after app, the second component is your header component. Then I have a separate component for shopping list. Within shopping list, I have another component for my shopping list edit. And another component within my shopping list for ingredients. That means your items. Okay. Then in the main component, I have a recipe list component, which will give me a list of all the recipes. Another component for recipe item.
You can list and I can recipe list and
Recipe list is the entire component. Within that, I have single components for each item. And then another component for recipe detail. Now this is, according to me, this should be the division. It's up to you to decide the division.
And so pretty much inside list items will be coming.
Yes.
What is the last thing you see?
Recipe
The item cost.
detail.
After item detail.
Detail. Okay.
In recipe book, which all ingredients are not present, that will get pushed to shopping list.
No. Recipe books are basically recipes of different items, different recipes. Now, suppose you found one recipe relevant to what you want to make, and you want to directly buy all the ingredients. You click on the ingredient of the recipe book, add it to my shopping list. That is one way. You can directly also add items, type and add items to your shopping list. Another way of adding items is from the recipe list. You can directly add it. Yeah.
Click add to cart.
Correct. The first thing would be think of a layout first. How you're going to, like I gave you a hint for dividing the components. Maybe you come up with a different aspect of it. Maybe for you the components would be different. Also, maybe this is not it. Maybe later on you will realize that okay, this is a very big module. I need to divide it into further components. You can do that. So there is no hard and fast rule that these many number of arguments, these many number of components have to be there, or this is how you divide a component. A component is divided as per your requirement, as per you. So what you think is best. Okay, so the first thing that you will do is create a root component. Okay. And then so far, whatever you think should be the components, create all the components. No need to write anything, just create a set structure. Then whatever you have learned from so far, try to add. We haven't covered everything. Like how do we, like I said, if you go to details page, so everything should be reloaded, right? All those things we haven't covered yet. But whatever we have covered so far, try to add it. Use components, use directives if you have to.
And shopping list, we said like on clicking shopping list, this should open. Kind of that, like when we are clicking on shopping list, it should.
So there's a header, right? That's header, maybe shopping list is present, recipe book is present. When you click on recipe book, all the list of recipes come. Then if you click on shopping list, all the list of items in shopping list come. You can pick up a nice UI and everything and start building whatever we have covered so far. Components, directives. There's more left to component and directives. We have to go in much more detail in depth. This is the basics of it. Okay, so we will continue tomorrow then.